What's up guys, it's Flowjector Coasters here. In this video, I will be doing my full review of the 2009 B&M Hypercoaster at Kings Island, Diamondback. Some people consider this to be the best coaster at Kings Island, and I am not one of those people, but I still think it is an excellent ride with amazing floater airtime, a long duration, and a great layout through the trees, and a unique splashdown effect at the very end. In the next few minutes, I will tell you my opinion of Diamondback so you can know what to expect when you go to ride it. Unlike the other review on this channel for my Orion, at the end of this video, I will give you guys my final score of this ride out of 10 based on different things that I look for in a coaster. Now that that's said, let's start off this review of Diamondback. Before I get into the video, I want to remind you, if you haven't already, to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more coaster content like this. Now let's get into it. Let's start off this video by talking about the theme. Diamondback is loosely themed to rattlesnakes, and you can see that in the name, the front of the train, and the sign/logo. There is practically no theming in the queue and station, and I can tell that when Kings Island built this attraction, their attention wasn't focused on the theming and instead put on the ride itself. I am perfectly okay with this because theming is relatively unimportant to me, but I know that some people are obsessed with the theming, and for those people who care, I just want to let you know that this ride has pretty much none of it. The queue is just a bunch of cattle pens, and the station looks like something that could be in the Wild West. I will say though, the design on the front of the Diamondback train looks really cool. It's a very detailed rattlesnake, and it might be one of the best train designs I've ever seen. Speaking of the trains, instead of the 4x8 trains that B&M typically uses in their roller coasters, Diamondback utilizes the next generation hypercoaster trains that feature staggered seating and a much longer train. This results in a lot more whip in the back row than the traditional trains like the ones in Orion provide. Longer trains also means more drawn-out elements, but that's nothing we haven't seen before in a B&M hypercoaster. Now that we're done talking about that, let's look at the stats for Diamondback. As you might know from rides like Mystic Timbers and Maverick at Cedar Point, stats are not everything, but it's still nice to at least know what they are, so here we go. Diamondback has an impressive length at 5,282 feet, which directly contributes to the long duration. Orion's length is actually a little more than this, but due to the height of Orion and the speed of which it goes through elements, Diamondback feels a lot longer than Orion. Diamondback is also 230 feet tall with a 215-foot drop. That drop will take the train to speeds of 80 miles an hour, which is very fast for a roller coaster. Something really weird about the stats for this ride is that they are almost identical to its older brother, Nitro, operating at Six Flags Great Adventure. The height, speed, and drop are all exactly the same, but Nitro's length is a little bit longer, and it features the regular trains. I don't know if Diamondback has anything to do with Nitro, but it's just odd that the stats are so similar. After all of that, let's get into the ride experience. After you board the train and get the all clear, you will begin ascending the 230-foot lift hill. This chain lift is pretty fast, but not quite as fast as coasters with cable lifts or newer B&Ms like Orion and Fury 325. When you're near the top, you will get a great view of the surrounding attractions, but that view won't last long because you will begin to go down that 215-foot, 74-degree drop. This drop has pretty good floater air in the front and sustained flowjector in the back row. This is a really fun drop, and it is when you really notice those longer trains in the back row because you get whipped down that drop before you even know it's coming. After the drop, you make a slight right-hand turn into a giant floater airtime hill. This hill gives some of the best floater airtime I've ever experienced, and it is probably the best part of the ride. The beginning of Diamondback is really where this ride shines, because the airtime is so much stronger, but I will get more into that later in the video. Next, you make a left-hand turn into another huge airtime hill. The airtime on this hill is equivalent to the previous hill, and it delivers awesome floater airtime. Next, you go into a typical B&M hammerhead turn. This is just a normal turnaround, but it delivers some positive Gs. After that, you level out and go into yet another camelback hill. This hill, however, has a set of trims on the way up, so it kills the momentum a little bit, but the trims don't hit too hard, so this element still delivers some okay floater airtime. After that, you go into an upwards helix, which has some positive Gs, but nothing too crazy. This is a fun element, but I like that helix on Orion better because it traverses it at a much faster speed, so you can feel the speed in the front row. After this helix, the train makes its way into the mid-course brake run. The trims in this mid-course definitely hit, but it's nothing like Flight of Fear or Alpengeist, both of which slow the train down to almost a complete stop. The lack of trims in this mid-course lead to a great drop off the mid-course. Now this drop is nothing crazy like the drop off the mid-course in Steel Vengeance, but it's a really hard to beat one of the greatest airtime moments I have ever experienced. In the back row, you get some sustained floater airtime on this drop. After this, the ride kind of dies. Unlike some rides like Superman Ride to Steel or Nitro, the first half is by far the best half because the few elements at the end don't really do much, but I'm still glad that they are there because they are fun and add to the duration. There are 2 bunny hills that give some weak floater air, then you traverse an upwards helix which takes you into the drop into the splashdown. This is probably the most unique part of this ride because it is one of 2 real splashdowns in the United States, the other one being Griffin at Busch Gardens Williamsburg, and I have ridden both of them. You don't get wet at all, but if you sit in the back row, you can stick your hand out and feel the water. Mostly, this splashdown looks super cool from outside of the ride, and it is really fun to wait in line and see each train going by it. Also, the water brakes help slow down the ride a bit before it goes into the final brakes, which keeps the brakes from wearing out faster. Unfortunately, the splashdown kills the airtime that you would have usually get while going into the final brakes, but that isn't a big deal. Overall, Diamondback is a great ride with excellent floater airtime in the beginning, an awesome layout, and a great ride duration. It doesn't offer everything that I look for in a coaster, like intensity, a feeling of speed, and ejector airtime, but it is still a really fun ride that everyone can enjoy. I do have one pretty major complaint about this ride that some people will take seriously, but some people don't care it, and that's the rattle. The rattle is only noticeable in the few rows at the far back of the train, but in my opinion, it is worth it for the better airtime. However, if you want the good airtime but don't want any rattle, I would recommend sitting in either row 12 or row 14. I picked these because they were the outside seats, which I prefer over the inside seats, and they offer the experience of the back row, but without the rattle. The front row is also really good because you get that feeling of speed, and you still get pretty good airtime, but I like the back better. Now it's time to give Diamondback my final score, and that final score is 8 out of 10. Diamondback loses 2 points because it lacks a few of the things that I look for in a roller coaster, like intensity, ejector airtime, and a strong feeling of speed. This ride has no ejector airtime, it has some speed, and it's not really intense at all. But if you like floater airtime, then this is definitely the ride for you, and this will be your favorite ride at Kings Island. But I more of look for the insane experience, like the ride on Mystic Timbers, or something like Steel Vengeance. So it's just not what I like in a roller coaster, but it's still a really good ride. That's the main reason why I enjoy Mystic Timbers more than this ride. But Diamondback is still my second favorite ride in the park, and one of my favorite roller coasters that I have ridden. I haven't ridden that many roller coasters, if you didn't know already. But I still can't decide if I like Nitro, the only other B&M hypercoaster that I've ridden other than Diamondback, better than Diamondback. Nitro has a stronger ending with that series of ejector bunny hills at the end, and the triple upwards helix in the middle of the ride is a lot more intense than Diamondback's helixes. But the overall experience and layout of Diamondback is better than Nitro. A few days ago, I would have said Nitro all the way, but after my night ride on Diamondback, I think it's a tie. Comment below what you think is better, Diamondback or Nitro, but I'm just going to leave it as a tie for now. That concludes my review of Diamondback at Kings Island. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to like and subscribe for more roller coaster content like this. Also, make sure to comment down below your thoughts on Diamondback if you have ridden it. Bye!